P Diddy, a night at a freak-off. Victim speaks. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. More evidence accumulates in relation to P Diddy, with another victim sharing her recollection of her involvement with P Diddy at one of his freak-off parties. The individual concerned is a model called Miss Tania, and she had been speaking to the Soft White Underbelly podcast. She explained that she attended the party where her mobile phone was confiscated by security guards, nullification of threat to control, on her arrival. And the only photographic evidence of the event she now has is in the form of a few photo booth snaps. She explains that she was traumatized by the events she witnessed at Diddy's house, the party taken place a number of years ago, where it was back in 2018. And she explained that she tried to tell her story 2 years ago, but they didn't believe me. She said, I knew that it didn't seem like it was going to be true because it was too much. It was too crazy. People were going to think that she was lying. But as a consequence of the events traumatizing her and the fact that several other people have come forward to make similar claims, she's felt emboldened to explain what went on. Back then, she was trying to make a start in the music business, and she was introduced through an intermediary to a well-connected Arabian prince who invited her to accompany him to one of P. Diddy's parties. When she arrived, a security guard patted the guests down, and their mobile phones were taken away and locked in a case. Most of the guests were supposedly confined to an area outside the star's mansion. You have the pool, and they're playing loud house music. It makes you feel kind of woozy, because it's like a rave or something. She explained everybody was walking around drunk. It's still 7 a.m, so the sun is coming up and people are walking around naked. They're in the pool skinny dipping, and they're drinking mimosas in the pool. A waitress was walking around giving people drinks. Tania claims that one guest was walking around recruiting attendees for an elite party within the party, handing out pairs of slippers to people she claims were chosen to be in the main building. She was reluctant to accept the invitation because she didn't want to leave her friends behind. She explained, I'm a good, loyal friend. I'm not going to go inside a house where they said my friend can't go. So we were just walking around mingling. I saw P. Diddy with the prince. I'm not going to say what he was doing, but it was something really sexual. Now, pausing there. If her evidence is to be believed, when she talks about P. Diddy doing something really sexual, is she talking about P. Diddy doing something with the prince? I.e., suggesting that P. Diddy was engaging in some form of homosexual activity? It's long been rumoured that P. Diddy is bisexual, which is not a surprise when it comes to certain narcissists of a somatic nature. In essence, they'll do anything to keep the party going. Men, women, all are legitimate targets for the pursuit of the prime aims. Might it be that she was referencing that P. Diddy was doing something sexual with somebody else accompanied by the prince? She's left it hanging in the air, and one can only speculate as to what she's actually making reference to. She continues by explaining, a few moments later, Diddy himself came over and asked why she hadn't accepted the invitation to go into the inner party. She ended up chatting with him for a few roots about a planned trip to Cuba, adding, then the person that he was dating at that time, I'm not going to say her name, but we all know who it is, she came and wanted to know what he was doing because he was talking to me for far too long. So she came to rub his shoulders and he just pushed her. That individual was clearly interfering in his discussions with Tania, which is a threat to his control, which resulted in the response. Feeling awkward, Tania walked away from the couple and instead decided to investigate the mysterious inner party. She was shocked by what she saw. "I don't judge people, but you know when people are out of their mind," she said. "I'm seeing stuff that you see on the movies. The corner they're doing this, the corner they're doing that, this corner they're having sex. I saw one person laid out." She describes feeling increasingly nervous and paranoid, adding, "I just felt like I was going to get sex trafficked or drugged or something like that." Tania quickly decided to leave, claiming it was then she realised she'd not been invited to get her breakthrough in show business at all, but it was for something much darker. She said, "It felt like selling your soul attending the party," which of course is something that she's laying on with the benefit of hindsight in relation to this event. Now, that's an overall summary of what she claims she witnessed, what was going on at this party. But let's break down what she actually said in the podcast with Soft White Underbelly. She explains that she'd met this Arabian prince, and she states, "I was worried about who he actually knew, so when he invited me, he said, 'I want you to invite you tomorrow to come to Music Ultra Week, and it's an event. It's an event for 2 weeks where people party, including P Diddy. And they party at Club Live. They party at just like in South Beach Star Island, where P Diddy stays or throws his freak-offs at. I never knew that we were going to go there because I was there for 2 weeks and I knew it was something fishy. He kept saying, 'I've got a surprise for you. I've got a surprise for you.' I'm like, 'But I'm only supposed to stay for 2 weeks and I'm here longer than 3. I mean that 2 weeks is almost a month.' It was basically a month by then. And he was like, 'No, I want you to meet one special person.' So the prince ended up telling me when we went to the Club Live that we were going to go to P Diddy's house. And I said, 'Oh, really? That's crazy. Because I hear a lot about P Diddy and what goes on. He's thrown this wild party.' So we went from Club Live and we then waited around at the mansion, the prince's mansion, for about an hour. And then as soon as 6:30 hit, we all got in the car like a big Uber. And me and all the other girls. Now, mind you, I'm the only black girl. So I'm like, 'Oh yeah, I'm about to meet P Diddy. Like I'm probably going to have to sing for him.' And I just tried to keep my composure. So we get there, and that's when stuff got weird. And that's why they lock up our phones. Because they know what we see in there. It can get people into trouble. So we arrived, security guards patted us down, and they put our phone in this little bubble case. So the bubble case is closed. They can't get unlocked until we walked out. So as we're in there, the only way of us taking any type of pictures is if we get into the photo booth. He has a team love photo booth or whatever, and they take 4 pictures. So, I've got pictures, I've still got everything in my Snap too, like the photos, everything, that's all you could get. Anyway, I'm walking around, or whatever, so one of his sons, I'm not going to tell you which one, but it was like recruiting like whoever they wanted to go inside the house, because the back of the freak-off is inside the house, and in the backyard you have the pool, and they're playing loud house music. Makes you feel kind of woozy at first, because it's all like it's a rave or something, and it's really loud. And you can't really see anything, but you're saying everything, everybody's like walking around drunk, hopping around, it's still 7 a.m, the sun's coming up, people are walking around naked. They're by the pool, skinny dipping, and they're drinking mimosas in the pool. And there's a waitress giving around drinks, and people just passing drinks, people are just taking them. I don't drink like that, but I'm an occasional drinker. I'll drink if we're partying or ever, just for occasion. So people are going to keep saying drink, drink, drink. But I didn't take a sip of a drink, but I just had it in my hand. One of the sons sees me walking around. I'm with the other girls, but we split up. So I was walking around with one girl. She's a Puerto Rican girl. So P Diddy's son was like, "You and I'm like me or her." And then he was like, "No, you come here." So I went to him. And he gave me some shoes. So these shoes were like some terry cloth robe shoes, white shoes. And I'm like, "What am I supposed to do with these?" And he was like, "You go in the house with these." He's like, everybody who gets these shoes, you get to go in the house. But I'm thinking you could just go in the house if you want to. But everybody can't go in the house because they're selectively picking who they want. I've been picked, so I'm like, well, what about my friend? He was like, no, only you. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm holding the shoes, I'm walking around, I'm a good loyal friend, so I'm not going to go inside a house where they said my friend can't go. So we're just walking around mingling. But we're tripping out, looking at everybody like they're off everything, smoking and jumping around like hooligans. And so I saw P Diddy, or whatever, and I saw him with the Prince. I'm not going to say what he was doing, but something really, I get really nervous. Something real crazy, because I don't really like to expose people. I talk about me, but when it's about like my family, because it's just us. But when it's other people, the bro was doing something really sexual. That's all I'm going to say. Then P Diddy walks up to me, and he was like, why are you not in the house? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, how are you enjoying my house? So we had a little talk. He started talking about all of these things. Oh yeah, you're the one that I was seen telling me about the Prince. He's like, yeah, it's very nice to meet you. Your life is not going to be the same. We started talking about going to Cuba. He's asking, are you going to go to Cuba with us? I'm like, what? And that's the thing, I didn't really know about this. So this is when I start asking around. I said that in the last interview, but to get to the point, I end up going in the house because he was on me like, go in that house, like I'm okay. Accordingly, P Diddy is looking to assert control by getting people to go in the house and is pressuring Tania to do so. Then the person that he was dating at that time, we're not going to say her name, but we all know who she is, came and was like looking at him, hey, what are you doing? Because he was talking to me for too long. So she came to like rub on his shoulders or whatever, and he just pushed her. And I'm looking real uncomfortable. I know what this is about. I don't want to be in the middle of this. So that's what made me go into the house. I'm like, okay, let me just go in the house. So I told my friend, wait here. Let me put on these shoes and see what this house is about. So I walk in. I don't judge people because at the time I was just smoking weed. But when people are out of their mind, and when people that you don't want to be part of. And it's like I'm seeing stuff that you see in the movies. In this corner, you've got this going on. On this corner over here, they're doing this. In this corner over there, they're having sex. I'm just going to say, because I don't know what I can say, because I'm not trying to be incriminating myself. But they were dressed up like little hero Yuku or Juku Barbies. Like what little people. Okay, we're not going to say what type of little people, but like a fetish. And I'm looking like, what are they doing here? Like dressed up, little and red lipstick, like they weren't supposed to be there. But I'm just looking like maybe it's some type of production going on. But why would they be at this party at 7 a.m. in the morning with grown people? Like, why would they be here? Now, pausing at this point, this is interesting. It's often the case with many of these victims that when they talk, they don't tend to be that clear in what they're saying. Part of it is that they often talk in a sort of slang, which may not be familiar to everybody. And in some instances, they're not the most articulate of individuals. Also, there still does appear to be a general reticence to be absolutely clear about who they've seen and what they've been doing, possibly for fear of recriminations. Now here, reference is being made to little people, and then being dressed up like Yuku or Huku Barbies, whatever those are. I'm sure somebody will tell me what they are. Now, referencing little people, does she mean dwarfs, midgets, or could she mean children? The fact of saying that it was strange that they were there with grown people at 7 a.m. in the morning, to my mind, tends to suggest that they were children. Because if they were, say, midgets or dwarfs who'd been hired as part of the party, you would just think, yeah, they're part of the entertainment. This is a party that's gone on all night. It's gone into the following day. That's why they're still here. I suspect she doesn't want to actually say that they're children. Instead, she wants to insinuate that that's the case, which, of course, leads to a rather unsavoury suggestion that children were attending a party and they're being there at 7 a.m. in the morning, dressed up as some kind of fetish, doesn't stack up as being something that would be legitimate. She carries on by explaining, I'm looking in this corner this person's laid out, and I'm like looking, what's going on? And then I'm seeing Instagram models, and I'm getting distracted, feeling not particularly comfortable. And then I see she's here. I assume that she's referring to P Diddy's partner, girlfriend. She says, oh my God, she's here. And then I see P Diddy, walking through the house, like with his eyes on me, like, is this, you see, like, are you agreeing with this? Is this? And I don't mind. I still got my friend out there. So I walked out of the house and I'm telling her, like, oh my God, you should see, like, for real. But I'm just like, I'm not even tripping. Like, oh, well, this guy's weird, So I'm really looking at the situation. I don't even want to be involved in this type of stuff. Once I see something, I can't get it out of my mind. And I'm like a hypochondriac. I keep on having flashbacks about it. So whatever, of course, I come out, and then here he goes again. Another rapper, a well-known rapper, comes and starts feeling on me. Like, hey, So it just seems like everybody is faded at this point. They're either drunk or on all the drugs, obviously, with this house music. So now I just feel like trapped. I don't like it, and I know the devil when I see it, because me being so spiritual, I know that when something's not right, I'm not judging, but I just don't want to be part of it, because how am I going to get out of this? I'm already here, and then I heard conversations or whatever. And then P. Diddy was like, that's the one that I want. That's it. Her. I want her. So now I feel like, they're plotting on me. Like, did you bring me here on purpose? Is this, the producer you were talking about? And I came here specifically with the Prince to rub elbows with people to network for the Music Week. But then I put two and two together. And the Prince was saying, your life is never going to be the same again. You're going to be happy somebody's interested in you. And I just feel like that was the time that I was actually going to get sex trafficked or, drugged or something like that. And then they kept trying to make me like I've been around celebrities before. If a rapper wants you or somebody wants you, they're not going to do it. They're going to send somebody else to do it. So if a waitress is coming or another girl or a pretty girl or a guy, they'll sack somebody on you to take this drink, do this, do that, and then you just feel eyes on you, like watching to see if you're going to do it when you're going to do it. So I already know that time it was, and it was crazy because I had to leave that place. In my last interview, I told you I had to escape. I had to leave from the Prince because he was telling me that we were leaving for Cuba the next day. Cuba with who? To do what? Like all this craziness. I escaped by leaving. I had to call the police and everything. I had to leave with the Prince. That's another story from the Prince, from that house. I didn't leave with the other girls. I had to get my phone unlocked, of course. But I had to catch a taxi, not even an Uber, a taxi to another location, and then ended up going to the airport and ended up leaving because I just felt bamboozled. But I thought I was getting lied to about how long I was supposed to stay there, and then talking about me meeting this producer, but actually nothing was being said about music, and then I was being told about going to Cuba. So this is the recollections of this individual, and it would appear that she's another one that attended a party. Ultimately, it's not as full of detail as you would suspect, but she's suggesting that there were unsavoury things going on. There seems to be an inference that there were children attending this party, and she was concerned that she'd been invited not because she was going to be introduced in the music industry as she first thought, but instead that she was going to be trafficked. Now, this interview on the podcast has been viewed some 1.1 million times, which is interesting given the limited information that it actually provides. But what it does show is that more and more people are coming out with their stories. And you can make your own mind up as to whether you believe them or not and as to the content of it. But it does tend to support the scale and depth of the allegations, and once again demonstrates that with somebody like P. Diddy, the acts that he has allegedly committed, which are done as a narcissist to assert control, to draw fuel, etc., have these collateral consequences, which mean at a later juncture, witnesses feel emboldened to speak about it further. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.